So over the past couple days, I've broke down some buys, I've broke down some sells, but what about those players for your dynasty teams that are firm holds? Guys that you should not be shopping, but you also shouldn't be shopping for. In today's video, I'll be breaking down some of those players. Could either be because the market and I see eye to eye on these players and they're, appropriately valued why you're just holding them, or also because they have some kind of extenuating circumstance that makes them difficult to shop and also at the same time too risky to buy. So definitely going to be an interesting video today. If you enjoy it at any point, leave a like, subscribe, all that good stuff. Now let's get right into it. All right, so as I did in the other videos, of course, these holds will be determined by our trade value charts over on flockfantasy.com. All positions are live: quarterbacks, running backs, wide receivers, tight ends. I also made a one quarterback version, a non-superflex version for those of you guys that don't play in superflex leagues, and you can access them both for superflex and for one quarterback leagues by using the promo code FSE, link down below in the description on flockfantasy.com. You get a 2-day free trial, a 30% off, promo code, and also 6 months for free if you sign up annually. So if you want any of these trade charts, that is how you can get them. Now let's get into the dynasty holds. There's going to be 10 of them in today's video. 4 of them are running backs. So you can see all the running back holds on the screen right now. J.K. Dobbins, Cam Akers, Aaron Jones, and Brian Robinson. The first guy, J.K. Dobbins, is such a difficult case at sometimes because he's now in his 4th NFL season, and we're projecting basically the workload that we were expecting J.K. Dobbins to take as a second-year player. But of course, we all know what happened. His second year was derailed by an ACL tear, a multi-ligament ACL tear at that. An ACL tear that he wasn't really fully recovered from until week 14 of this year. So it took him nearly 13 months after his ACL reconstructive surgery to be back on the field. But from week 14 onward, we saw him finish the season strong. He went over 100 yards from scrimmage in 3 out of 5 games, 90 yards from scrimmage in 4 out of 5 games. He broke a tackle this season at the second highest rate of all running backs, 43.4% tackles avoided per attempt, and almost 6 yards per carry on the ground for J.K. Dobbins. If you guys recall, 2 years ago, I was very high on J.K. Dobbins, and this is kind of the reason why, because I think he's just a good-ass running back. He was my RB2 coming out behind Jonathan Taylor in 2020. I think he's one of the most talented backs in the NFL, and now the stars are kind of aligning for him to have a Miles Sanders type of fourth-year breakout like we saw last year from him. He's 2 years removed from the ACL tear, so that's no longer a concern. The offense now has actual weapons around him to draw attention away from the running game from Lamar Jackson. On the outside, they have 2 first-round receivers. They drafted Zay Flowers this year. They drafted Rashad Bateman 2 years ago, and Odell Beckham Jr. to help those young guys come along. Todd Monken is now calling the plays, who's previously been in very pass-heavy stops like Tampa Bay a couple years ago, Cleveland back in 2019. That should unlock some pass volume for this offense, help the offense move a little bit better. And also, Dobbins is the best all-around back on the team and probably the best receiving back on the team. So he might actually have some legitimate receiving upside. It'll probably be capped to some degree with Lamar Jackson, but it probably is better than it has been in recent years. You simply can't sell J.K. Dobbins right now because you won't get very much more than like a very late first, maybe an early second round type of pick, which is how I currently value him. And he could easily be worth more than that come mid-season, but also he's still quite risky because it's his 4th year and we haven't really seen this guy command a full workload. So for that reason, he is basically a hold for me. I'm not buying him. I'm not selling him. If I have him on my roster, he is a firm hold. I would buy him if you can get him for a second rounder. I would sell him if you can get a mid-first plus for him, but you probably can't get either of those things, so that's why he is a hold. Cam Akers, right now, I'm just kind of playing the hits, right? Cam Akers, another guy that I've been very high on in the past. He's right now valued as an early second rounder, as a solid, dart throw volume play right now for the Los Angeles Rams offense. We've seen this guy command legitimate carry volume. Back in his rookie year, we saw him command, huge volume into the NFL playoffs. And then this year, he closed out the season with a 72% snap share or better in 4 of his last 5 games, including in week 16 when he was the RB1 overall in fantasy on the week. He is now 2 years removed from the torn Achilles. He looked a lot better to close out the season, and the Rams only really added a 7th round Zach Evans to this backfield, who doesn't really scare me from a prospect standpoint and from a draft capital standpoint. The offense may not be fireworks like we were once expecting for the Rams and Cam Akers, but Matthew Stafford and Cooper Kupp alone is enough enough to keep this offense moving, probably be better than people think. And I think Cam Akers still has a lot of upside to get a lot of goal line work and that kind of thing. His upside is a first round asset, right? If he hits his ceiling, if he's a, mid to high end RB2, he's still young. He's still only 24 years old. And selling him for an early to mid second right now would probably be forfeiting that upside case. So for me, he's a firm hold. Again, not a guy that I'm overly invested, overly buying into, but a guy that I am not selling by any means either, as will be the case with pretty much every player on this list. Number 3, we have Aaron Jones. He won't be going up in value anytime soon because he's a 28-year-old running back. But if you need a low-end RB1, high-end RB2 for a contending window, it doesn't get much cheaper or much better option than Aaron Jones. We've been pissed at Matt LaFleur for years for not using Aaron Jones in like a workhorse role, but it's starting to finally pay dividends because it's allowed him to stay efficient. And if you're wondering, how can I be high on Aaron Jones? He's 28 years old. I'm low on running backs that are older in general, like Dalvin Cook, like Joe Mixon, Alvin Kamara, Derrick Henry, all those guys. The reason is Aaron Jones's team hasn't outwardly said that they want to cut or trade him like Joe Mixon and Dalvin Cooks. And B, Jones hasn't fallen off yet. From an efficiency standpoint, he was still very good last year. He still ranked as the RB11 in points per game last season on the back of 72 targets, which is about where he was drafted in drafts. So you basically got exactly what you were expecting. He ranked top 15 in yards created per touch. He ranked top 12 in juke rate, and he ranked top 12 in yards per touch as well. So he did not fall off one bit, and it's probably because Matt LaFleur has done a good job of preserving his career, allowing him to play into his late 20s. So Aaron Jones is a guy that I think if you have an early to mid second round pick, he's probably about worth that. But if you have him on your roster and you're contender, I would firmly just hold Aaron Jones. I'm not necessarily looking to sell him, not necessarily looking to buy him. Number 4, we have Brian Robinson. I'd like to call Brian Robinson a sell because I think he was overvalued at one point, but now I think he's valued appropriately. For a mid RB2, what you're getting in from a redraft setting, you can get Brian Robinson for like a mid to late second rounder, which is exactly where I think he should be going. It wouldn't shock me at all if this guy comes out and has like a breakout season, because I think it's easy to look at Brian Robinson's numbers and be like, 3.8 yards per carry. Antonio Gibson's clearly the better back, especially on third down. But one thing that we forget is that Brian Robinson was legitimately shot in the leg like a week before the season this year, and he still came back quickly, still was able to be a productive running back. It wouldn't shock me at all if he comes out and becomes a high-end RB2 for fantasy, a mid RB2 for fantasy on the back of touchdowns and high carry volume. To me, he's a firm hold for rebuilders because I think mid-season you'll be able to get more for him than you're getting now, and also a firm hold for contenders because I think he's good RB depth to have as like, your RB4, your RB5 on your roster, put him into your flex play type of thing. So those were my running back holds. My wide receiver holds are these guys. You guys can see them on the screen: Deebo Samuel, Mike Williams, Keenan Allen, Gabe Davis, and Tyler Lockett. Deebo Samuel regressed mightily last year from his top 5 fantasy season in 2021, but he is still an absolute stud from a talent perspective, who's shown a top 5 ceiling, 20-plus point per game ceiling in PPR. So I don't want to sell him right now at the low point that he's currently at, but he's also a tad risky, right? He's 28 years old or 27 years old, had, a bit of an injury history. He's, a wonky profile because he's not the type of guy that's going to command like 175 targets on a season. So I'm not buying low on him. I'm not, selling high on him or selling low on him at this point in time. We know that the 49ers can put up points, whether it's Brock Purdy back there, which is what I expect if he's healthy, Trey Lance back there if Brock Purdy's not on the field, or hell, even Sam Darnold might start some games this season. I expect the 49ers to be a good offense regardless, and Deebo Samuel is the only player in the NFL that I can actually count on for manufactured touches and expect, solid wide receiver 1 usage in addition to, 4 or 5 carries per game, goal line work. The back of efficiency, touchdowns, carries, and targets is how Deebo Samuel makes his money. And I think if you have him for a contender, just hold him. Don't worry about it. And if you have him for a rebuilder, you should probably hold him as well until, a point in the season where people recognize that Deebo Samuel is a great player and maybe you can offload him and sell him high at that point in time. But for now, he's appropriately valued. Number 6 we have is Gabe Davis. His outlook is almost exactly the same as it was last year. Only this year, he's not the most hyped player in the history of fantasy football like he was. And if you told me last year he was going to finish wide receiver 36 in points per game, I probably would have bursted out laughing because that's exactly what I projected for him. I said, this is a boomer bust wide receiver 3, and that's exactly what he ended up being. But there was some things to take away that you definitely like about Gabe Davis's season. Number 1, he did live up to the hype to some degree. He was a usable flex piece in fantasy football, and he commanded an 18% target share, which was like an 8% improvement from his second season, and he's still a young player. He's in a contract year. He's still the deep threat for Josh Allen. He had like a top 5 average depth of target last year. So he's going to give you those big plays, those spike weeks, especially if you play in any dynasty best ball leagues. Quite literally the definition of a perfect flex play for contenders. He's valued exactly where he should be. And there's probably still truthers in your league. So it's going to be difficult to go out and like buy him for a 3rd round pick, because I'm sure people want to hold on to him because he's attached to that Bills offense. So a firm hold if you're a rebuilder, if you're a contender, because I think Gabe Davis is a good piece for either team because he's still a young player who could appreciate in value, and he can give you flex play type of appeal in a redraft setting. So number 7, we have 2 guys here, which is the Chargers wide receivers. Both Mike Williams and Keenan Allen are solid win now pieces that are slightly deflated due to the addition of Quentin Johnston in the NFL draft. Mike Williams, to me, an early 2nd round value as a wide receiver 2 piece with Justin Herbert. Everybody kind of understands what he is. And same thing with Keenan Allen. If Keenan Allen can stay healthy, he can be a wide receiver 1 in redraft this year. Because he gets a lot of targets, but he is risky because of the injury history, because of the advanced age that he's at. He, dealt with hamstring injuries the last couple of years. Either way you slice it, there's an upside case, there's a downside case for both of these guys. I prefer Mike Williams of the 2 because he's younger and he has 2 years left on his current contract. But I like both of these guys as holds if you're a contending team, because both of them can give you good, wide receiver 2-3 flex production type of thing. But I'd likely not be in a rush to sell either of these guys if I was rebuilding, because I think mid-season you're going to get a lot more for them than you would right now. So both of them are firm holds for me. Tyler Lockett is the next guy that we're going to talk about. He is probably a 1-year projection, if I'm being honest. We also have some risk that Geno Smith might not be the same player, as he kind of tapered off towards the end of the season last year. But I know that Tyler Lockett can still play. I know he's still a great wide receiver. Jackson Smith-Njigba and DK Metcalf both kind of lurk and take volume away from Tyler Lockett in the long term. But if I have Tyler Lockett, I'm probably going to hold him if I'm contending and just use his production. And even if I'm rebuilding, I think he could go to a new team in 2024, or either way, you're looking at a guy that mid-season people are going to realize, hey, maybe Jackson Smith-Njigba isn't getting out to a flying start, and you can sell Tyler Lockett for more at that point in time. Maybe he's a buy in some very reactive leagues if people are just going to bury him in ADP, bury him in the rankings, and you can get him for like a late 2nd rounder, an early 3rd rounder or something like that. Then he would be a buy. But I think generally speaking, his value is about a mid-2nd rounder, and that's exactly where he should be valued. So moving on to the quarterbacks of the video and closing out this video is 2 quarterbacks that I think are good holds right now. Tua Tagovailoa, again, kind of like an extenuating circumstance right now because of the head injuries, because of the concussions. People are very concerned that, he might just retire. His injury history makes him both impossible to sell and too risky to acquire. He's basically the definition of both things, and you're basically stuck with him. If you have Tua on your roster, you kind of have to just see how it plays out. But that may age like fine wine if he ends up, staying healthy, because he's got one of the best supporting casts of any quarterback in the NFL with all that speed around him. Tyreek, Jalen Waddle, Raheem Mostert, Devon Achane. They have so much speed in that offense. All Tua Tagovailoa has to do is just distribute the ball to his playmakers. And there was a point in time where mid-season last year, Tua was valued as, on par with Deshaun Watson and Kyler Murray, even above some of those guys at a certain point in the year. This guy led the league in yards per attempt last year. Let me repeat that. He led the league in yards per attempt at 24 years old. And because of some head injuries, people are going to be concerned about him. And he ranked 5th in the NFL in PFF passing grade behind only Joe Burrow, Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, and Jalen Hurts. We're talking about a guy that legitimately had a breakout season last year, but you don't have to pay the breakout season premium. But the risk of the injury is still real, and we don't exactly know how that's going to play out. But he does play the most protected position in probably all of sports. He has guys in front of him whose job is literally to protect them. And then, of course, all the rules protect the quarterback position as well. I'm inclined to make the bet that the player we saw last year is the player that we're going to continue to see 2nd year in Mike McDaniel's system. The only question mark is if he can stay healthy. So he's a hold because you don't necessarily know that. And if you have somebody in your league willing to overpay 2 first-round picks because they don't care about the injury history, by all means. And if you have somebody in your league who holds Tua right now, who all they want for him is a late first-rounder because they're scared shitless of the injuries, by all means, go buy him for that point. But as of right now, I think his price of like a mid-first rounder plus is adequate, and I think you should probably hold Tua Tagovailoa. Daniel Jones, the final guy of this video, he was left for dead this time last year. Nobody wanted Daniel Jones. You almost never see NFL teams giving their young quarterbacks the full leash, their full rookie contract to start, to work out the kinks, and to develop into the player that they can be. And Daniel Jones is one of the few guys that actually got that leash. he rewarded the Giants with the best true completion percentage of any quarterback in the NFL last year. So people look at Daniel Jones and they might think, oh, well, is he really good at anything? Is he just kind of an average quarterback overall? Well, A, we know he can run. We know he's got plus mobility. And he also was one of the most accurate quarterbacks in the NFL last year. And he didn't really have anybody to throw the ball to. Now he has Darren Waller. Now he has Jalen Hyatt. Paris Campbell added to this offense. And I know they're not like, a splash free agent like if they had traded for DeAndre Hopkins or something, but that could still happen for one. And two, Daniel Jones operated better last year when he was kind of just distributing to whoever was getting open rather than like force feeding a number one receiver. He can still run. He finished his quarterback 10 points per game last year. Firm hold if you're contending. Firm hold if you're rebuilding as well. Although we don't know if he's going to have like this 10-year starting window because, I think year over year, Daniel Jones still has to prove that he's still a starting caliber quarterback in the NFL. And even if he were to faceplant this year with the Giants, he would probably get another opportunity elsewhere. He would definitely still go down in value. So I think he's somewhat risky to some degree, but I also do see the upside case that maybe he could take another step forward with improved weapons this year, with Barkley back, with Waller added, with Hyatt added, with, Slayton back, with Shepard back, Paris Campbell added, all that good stuff. So Daniel Jones, another firm hold for me. If you guys enjoyed this video, if you received some value from it, if I put your mind at ease on some of the players you're scared about, I'm sure a lot of Tua Tagovailoa managers probably were excited to hear what I said about that. Leave a like down below, subscribe to the channel if you guys are new around here, and comment down below who you think is a firm hold in Dynasty Fantasy Football Leagues. Like I talked about at the beginning of the video, if you want access to all these Dynasty trade value charts so you know if you should be buying, if you should be selling, if you should be holding a lot of your players, go head on over to flockfantasy.com and use the promo code FSE when you sign up for 30% off, a 2-day free trial, 6 months for free when you sign up annually, and also first priority submissions to Dynasty Decisions and a private Discord channel to get full 100% access to myself and to Danny so you can ask us questions whenever you want. That is linked down below in the description. And also check out our other sponsors if you want to support us in any way. Check out Aura for the best cybersecurity tool you'll ever need to protect your families. Check out Elite Picks if you're making bets on, MLB games, basketball games, hockey games, whatever. They have the best picks out there. Pro bettors, you can get their picks for just $5 for your first day when you use our link when you sign up. And also check out Underdog Fantasy and use the promo code FSE for 100% back on whatever you put in. Best Ball Mania 4 going live fast and furious. Right now, I'm like 30 drafts deep, getting very excited for the NFL season. But with that being said, peace out, and we'll talk to you soon.